The capital city of the Zarnati Empire was built from dark crystal and black metal. It stretched into the sky like claws reaching for the stars. Every building pulsed with soft blue light, and massive ships flew silently through the gray sky. It was a city of power and fear, and in the middle of it, one human walked calmly through the gates. His name was Rook. He wore a simple jacket and carried a small bag. He wasn't a soldier or a spy. He was an engineer from Earth, sent as part of a peaceful exchange program. He had short brown hair, a calm face, and eyes that studied everything with quiet curiosity. The guards at the gate looked down at him. They were twice his height, covered in thick armor, with sharp horns curling from their heads. One of them scanned his ID and said in a low voice, "Human, Rook, you are expected. Do not cause problems." Rook gave a small nod. "Just here to learn." He was led into the city by a tall Zarnati official named Toleran. Toleran was silent most of the time, only speaking to explain what a building was or who ruled which district. Rook asked polite questions, but Toleran only grunted and replied as they passed a training field. Rook paused to watch a group of Zarnati warriors sparring. They moved fast, swinging heavy blades and firing pulse weapons. It was clear they were trained for war. Rook admired their discipline, but said nothing. "You do not look impressed," Toleran said. Noticing his expression, "They're skilled," Rook said honestly, "but Earth has sports that look just as tough. You should see rugby." Toleran frowned. He didn't know what rugby was, and Rook didn't explain. They kept walking. Finally, they reached the central hall, where high members of the Empire waited to meet the Earth delegate. The hall was enormous, with black stone pillars carved with the history of Zarnati conquests. Banners hung from the ceiling, showing victories across dozens of star systems. Vorluk, a senior diplomat, stood near the center. His skin was dark red, and his eyes were cold and sharp. He stepped forward and looked Rook over with a mix of amusement and confusion. "So, this is the human," Vorluk said. "You are smaller than I expected. Your bones seem light. Your skin is soft. How do you survive on such a peaceful world?" Rook tilted his head. "We manage." Vorluk smiled with mock kindness. Yes. I heard Earth is a garden world, full of green trees and soft rain. A place where children run in meadows and no danger ever comes. How gentle." Some of the Zarnati chuckled. They looked down at Rook like he was a fragile animal brought for show. Rook didn't seem upset. He looked up at the banners, then back at Vorluk. "Earth isn't as soft as you think." "Oh?" Vorluk raised an eyebrow. "Do you mean your weapons, your small armies?" "No," Rook replied calmly. "I mean the weather." That sentence stopped everything. 1 second earlier, the hall had been filled with quiet amusement. The next, it was silent, dead silent. Vorluk blinked. "Excuse me," Rook repeated. "I mean the weather, Earth weather." A distant sound could be heard, a data tablet slipping from someone's hand and clattering on the floor. One of the younger officials took a step back. Another looked at Rook with wide eyes, as if seeing him for the first time. Tall Ren, the guide, whispered something under his breath and quickly activated a wrist communicator. Rook looked around, confused. "Is something wrong?" Vorlak's voice was suddenly serious. You speak of Earth's climate?" "Yes," Rook answered. "We get a lot of extreme weather. Heat waves, freezing storms, flooding, wildfires. It's just normal for us." The air changed. A low alarm began to hum somewhere in the walls. Doors sealed shut. 2 guards ran out of the room without a word. Another stood perfectly still, staring into space. Rook's smile faded. "What's happening?" Vorluk took a slow step backward. He tapped a control pad on the side of the hall. A large screen flickered to life. It showed a map of Earth. Weather icons appeared across the globe: storms, snow, winds, fires. "You live in this?" Vorluk asked, voice barely above a whisper. Rook shrugged. "Yeah, it's just part of life. We have warning systems, and people adapt." A second screen lit up, showing footage from Earth. A man with a microphone stood outside during a tornado, his coat flapping as he shouted into the wind. Another clip showed children throwing snowballs in a blizzard. A third clip showed lightning crashing across a desert sky. The Zarnati stared, their expressions frozen in disbelief. Rook tried to explain. Earth's weather is intense, but we're used to it. It builds resilience. We don't control it, but we prepare. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Someone whispered, thousands of years. Vorlich turned away, walking slowly toward a control panel. Send word to High Command, he said. Level 1 climate alert. But sir, said one officer, that level is reserved for world-ending storms. Vorlich looked back at Rook. Exactly. Rook blinked. Wait. What? The doors opened again, and a group of armored officers rushed in, scanning Rook with high-frequency scanners. He raised his hands, confused and surprised. What are you doing? He asked, checking for storm emitters. One of them said, looking for temperature modification devices. Where's the source? There's no device, Rook said, more confused than ever. It's just Earth. The planet is like that. No one spoke for a moment. Then Vorlich said quietly, we invited a being from a world that survives hurricanes, lightning storms, blizzards, fire from the sky, and pressure waves. And he treats it as normal. The guards looked at Rook differently. Now not with amusement or superiority, but with fear. Rook looked around the room. I don't understand. Vorlich met his eyes. You come from a place that even warlords fear. A place where the sky attacks and the ground shakes. And you still build cities and laugh in the face of it. You live in a storm and call it home. Rook didn't know what to say. For him, it had always just been Earth. But for the galaxy, it was something else entirely. Inside the great stone halls of the Zarnati capital, chaos had begun to spread like fire on dry grass. Guards who once stood still and proud were now rushing through corridors, speaking quickly into their comms. Advisors whispered to one another, behind trembling hands. Every monitor inside the central command tower now showed data pulled directly from Earth's ancient weather archives, and none of it made sense to them. Rook, still standing near the center of the hall, tried to speak, but no one answered him. He took a step toward Vorlich. Did I say something wrong? Vorlich didn't respond. His eyes were focused on the storm footage playing across the largest screen. Wind speeds of over 300 kilometers per hour. Lightning that split trees in half. Sandstorms that swallowed entire cities. A volcano releasing red-hot lava beside a populated area. While people calmly filmed it with phones, he whispered, "This is real?" Rook nodded. "Yes, that's all normal stuff on Earth." An officer behind Vorlich stumbled backward. He said normal. Vorlich turned to a nearby assistant. Open the restricted vault. I want all files from the first human observation report. Everything. No more secrets. The assistant hesitated. Sir, that data was classified for a reason. I'm overriding it. The assistant ran. Rook watched with growing confusion. He had expected some curiosity, maybe even a little respect, but this was something else. It felt like fear. Not the usual kind, but deep. Ancient fear like the kind you get when you realize the monster under the bed is real. Can someone explain what's going on? Rook asked again. His voice louder this time. A second guard, smaller than the others, stepped forward. Her name was Lyra. Her scales were a light gray color, and she looked much younger than the others. Her voice shook as she spoke. When your species first sent data to the galactic network, it included full environmental scans. At the time, most of us thought it was fake. We assumed humans were exaggerating to look stronger. But it wasn't fake, another official said. It was worse than we imagined. Rook frowned. We just sent what was real. Why would we lie about our weather? The hall fell quiet again from behind the sealed doors. The assistant returned carrying a glowing crystal data core. Vorlich inserted it into the main console. Instantly, the room dimmed, and old hidden files appeared on the central screen. Rook watched in silence as the Zarnati Empire's secret records about Earth were revealed. One file showed a human climbing Mount Everest, struggling through deadly winds and snow where oxygen was almost gone. Another showed firemen standing beside a wall of flames taller than a building, calmly preparing to fight it. There were clips of children playing in floodwaters, smiling. Old black and white footage showed people walking outside during a full Snowstorm while laughing and waving at the camera. What kind of world raises beings who smile in that? A general asked softly. No one answered him. Vorlich rubbed the side of his head. We thought we were strong. We thought the Zarnati Empire had conquered fear itself. But we would never survive on Earth. Not even for one day. The council chamber started to fill with more leaders, each brought in by emergency alerts. News of the weather incident had spread far beyond the hall. Within an hour, the entire High Command was present, and more reports continued to come in from across the galaxy. One by one. They watched the weather data and the Earth videos. A scientist named Rirak pointed to the screen. Here, this storm moves at 200 kilometers per hour and spans nearly 1,000 kilometers. And humans call it a Category 5 hurricane. They have 5 categories of storms like this. 5. Another shouted, look at this event. The sky literally rains ice. Frozen water falling fast enough to break glass, and the humans still go. Outside, who survives this? Asked a military strategist. Rook answered honestly. Most people do. We prepare for it. We build strong homes. We use warnings to stay safe. A captain muttered. You build homes. Against the sky? Rook thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes. The room spun deeper into panic. A council member stood up. We cannot treat them as equals anymore. We must treat them as a something else, something greater. Another agreed. Suddenly, alarms flashed again. A new transmission had arrived from a mining outpost on the edge of the Empire. The base commander there had just received a replay of Rook's Earth weather statement. After watching only 5 minutes of weather footage, the entire command staff had evacuated the facility, leaving behind millions of credits and resources. They believed Earth was sending a message, one officer explained. They thought the mention of weather was a veiled threat. Vorlich turned slowly to face Rook. You didn't mean it as a threat, did you? No, Rook said. Honestly, I was just explaining. Earth weather makes us stronger. That's all I meant, but the damage had already been done. Outside the Capitol building, crowds were gathering. They weren't protesters. They weren't curious visitors. They were scared. Some carried banners asking for Earth's protection. Others carried gifts meant for the Stormwalkers. A new title already being used to describe humans. Rook stepped toward the window and saw the city. From above, ships were leaving the skyports. Traders were pulling out of deals. Zarnati families were packing and fleeing to distant colonies. He had only been here for one day, and the Empire was already shaking. A quiet voice behind him said, You do not understand what you've done, do you? Rook turned. Lyra stood behind him again. Her eyes were softer now, less afraid. I was just trying to explain Earth, Rook said. She nodded. But your Earth, it's like a test, a world that throws fire, ice, and storms at its people and they survive. That's not normal in this galaxy. That's terrifying. Vorlich turned to the others. We must contact the Galactic Council. This changes everything. An elder counselor looked at him. Do we declare war? Vorlich shook his head. No, you do not declare war on a species raised by the sky. The next day, the Empire's great library was placed on full lockdown. Guards stood at every entrance. No one could enter or leave without permission from the highest levels of command inside. A council of scientists, generals, and historians gathered around a circular chamber deep beneath the surface. These walls had not seen this many officials in over 100 years. At the center of the room, a giant table made of dark stone glowed with data feeds. Blue light from the monitors danced across the worried faces of the Zarnati leaders. On the main screen was one name, Earth, Class X Environmental Hostility Report Status. Sealed since first contact. We are opening it now, said Rirak, the lead researcher. His hands trembled slightly as he typed in the override codes. All information in this file was locked because the data was considered too unstable, too impossible. But now that a human has arrived and confirmed it, we must see the truth. Everyone in the room stayed silent. The file opened. Old footage filled the screen. First contact images, maps, climate data, weather footage, survival statistics. Much of it had never been seen by anyone outside the original investigation team. A video began to play. It was recorded by an early probe that flew over Earth's surface, sent by a Zarnati scout ship long before humans knew they were being watched. The probe captured a strange, two-legged animal walking through a thick blizzard. Snow fell hard. Winds were violent, yet the creature moved steadily, its coat flapping as it carried a bag of supplies. Then the camera zoomed in. The figure was a human male. He was walking through with a file called an Arctic cold snap. The temperatures were marked at -40 degrees Celsius. The human stopped, pulled off one of his gloves, and touched a metal handle. Gasps filled the room. He removed his protective shell, one general said. Why would he do that? Another replied. He was using bare hands, and that kind of cold, that would destroy most species in minutes. The next video showed a desert storm. A lone person in protective glasses crossed dunes under whipping winds and blowing sand. Temperatures read above 50 degrees Celsius. The person stopped, took a drink of water, then kept moving. More files followed. One showed lightning splitting a tree as people stood nearby under umbrellas, calmly filming it. Another showed children playing in floodwaters. There was a clip of a man in a spinning vehicle drifting across a frozen road while laughing. Each video had timestamps, locations, and survival rates. A silence fell again. Vorlich spoke next. Our understanding was flawed. Earth is not a peaceful world. Earth is war, written in wind and water, fire and ice. General Marn, a tall, battle-scarred leader, leaned forward. We have battled other species. We have faced fleets and armies. But we have never met anyone who considers that kind of world normal. Rirak pulled up the next report. It was a full analysis written by one of the first Zarnati observers. It had been hidden under heavy security codes. At the top was a warning. Do not reveal to public. Will cause panic. The first line of the report read, Earth's atmosphere is aggressive, and its planet is hostile. Its life forms have evolved under constant environmental pressure. Most impressive and dangerous of all, the humans have adapted completely and without complaint. Lyra, the young officer who had first spoken to Rook, read it aloud. She paused after the last words and looked up. Without complaint, she repeated. That is what scares me most. The others nodded. The council chamber dimmed again as the last section of the archive played. This time, it was footage from Earth's weather channels. One showed a man with a microphone standing on a beach. Behind him, a massive wave crashed into the shore. Wind ripped at his coat, and palm trees bent sideways. He smiled at the camera. We're here in Florida as the eye of the storm approaches. Winds are picking up. It's going to be a wild night. Back to you in the studio. The video ended. No one moved. He was laughing, whispered one scientist. There was danger all around him, and he was laughing. Rook stood in the corner of the room, still unsure if he should speak. He had been invited to see the records, but he felt like an outsider watching his own life be turned into something strange and terrifying. He finally said, That's just normal reporting. People on Earth do it all the time. We like to know what the weather is doing. We don't panic. We prepare. Vorlich turned to him slowly. You face the sky as if it were a wild animal, and you walk into its mouth. That is not normal. Not to us. Rook crossed his arms. So what happens now? Are you going to treat Earth like a threat? Marn stood. We already do. But Earth has never attacked anyone, Rook said. We just live with what we have. That is what makes it worse, said Rirak. You are not aggressive. You are patient. You are calm. Yet your people survive things that would destroy ours. That makes us question everything. Another official stood. If humans can live with such storms, what else have they survived? What other powers do they hide? If weather like this is only the surface of their world, what lies beneath? There were no answers. The file was closed. The archive sealed again, but this time, everyone in the room had seen the truth. The legend of Earth was no longer a secret. It was something they could not ignore. Outside, more systems in the Empire were reporting unrest. Colonies near the Outer Rim had sent requests to pull back diplomatic staff. Civilian networks began spreading clips of Earth storms, mixing them with dramatic music. Some alien children cried in fear after watching videos of tornadoes and snowstorms. Others watched in silent awe. On the streets, new words were being spoken in quiet tones: Stormkin, Weatherburn, Skywalkers. These names were not created by humans. They were born from fear and wonder. Back inside the archive chamber, Vorlik gave one final order: send this to the Galactic Council. Let them know Earth has survived the wrath of its own world. The rest of us may not be ready. Rook looked at the faces around him. None of them showed mockery now, only respect, and something deeper. They no longer saw him as weak. They saw him as a survivor of a planet that never showed mercy. By the third day of Rook's visit, the panic had spread far beyond the Zarnati Empire. In every corner of the galaxy, beings from different species sat glued to their screens, watching a single transmission that was now being played across thousands of networks. It was no longer just a rumor or a misunderstood comment. It was a clear message, shared by the Zarnati High Council itself. The human from Earth has spoken. Earth is confirmed to be a death world. Its climate, by all scientific measures, is hostile beyond reason. Its people survive it daily. That message was followed by footage. Not weapons, not battleships. Just Earth weather. The first video showed a massive wall of wind racing across flat land. A tornado, spinning so fast it pulled roofs off buildings and tossed cars like toys. The video zoomed in on a man holding a camera, standing far too close. He smiled. He waved. He didn't run. A second video played. Blinding snow-covered roads, cars crashed. Yet people got out, helped each other, and continued walking to their homes. The temperature read -30 degrees. Then came the floods, fires, dust storms, lightning strikes, one after another. It didn't stop. Each video had a small title on the screen: Normal Earth Conditions. In one small planet near the galactic south rim, a class of school children watched in silence. One young alien with pale blue skin asked his teacher, "Are those creatures really human?" The teacher turned off the screen and answered, "Yes. And they live in that storm every day." On another world, a council of scientists gathered in a research dome. They reviewed Earth's satellite data, trying to understand the weather patterns. Their machines began to overheat. The pressure systems didn't make sense. The algorithms failed. "We cannot model their world," one scientist said, holding his head in disbelief. "Every time we try to simulate Earth's environment, our systems crash, even in theory. It should be unlivable. Still, humans survived it. Not only survived, but built cities, planted crops, raised children, and laughed in the face of weather that could break steel. Back on the Zarnati capital planet, Rook was now kept under constant watch, not as a prisoner, but as a guest of great importance. His room had a view of the city, where panic and confusion were growing. He noticed strange things. Guards bowed when they passed him. Servants brought food without speaking. A small group of alien children left a gift at his door. It was a handmade model of a lightning storm, built from crystals and metal pieces. It even made tiny thunder sounds. Rook picked it up and smiled, though he still didn't understand why people were acting like this. Later that day, he was called to speak with a new figure, an older alien named Iris, who wore the silver robe of a galactic diplomat. His face was lined with age, and his voice was soft but clear. "You have changed the balance of power," Iris said. Rook shook his head. "I haven't done anything. I just told the truth." "And that truth," Iris replied, "has shattered the galaxy's understanding of survival." They walked together through the palace garden. Round them, guards stood ready, though their weapons were lowered. "You humans," Iris said, "were not known by many. You were considered young. Not a threat, not a danger. But now, everyone is afraid. Not because of war, not because of weapons, but because of the storms on your world." Rook paused near a water fountain. "Is fear the only thing your people understand?" Iris looked thoughtful. "We understand respect, and power, and survival. Until now, we believed our empire had mastered all three. But then you came, and you spoke of storms as if they were teachers. not enemies. I never meant to scare anyone, Rook said quietly. Iris nodded. I believe you. That is why this is even more powerful. Suddenly, a beep came through. Iris's communicator. He pressed a button. A voice spoke, urgent and fast. The outer systems are in confusion. 3 trade networks have collapsed. Civil leaders demand protection from Earth storms. Religious groups are forming, calling humans the Stormburn. Another voice followed. The Galactic Council is preparing a vote. They want to classify Earth as a threat class world not because of violence, but because of fear alone. Iris turned off the device and looked at Rook. You've created a storm of a different kind. Back in the city, strange scenes were unfolding. Shops were selling protective suits marked as Earth weather armor. Even though none of it came from Earth, people lined up to buy scarves, gloves, and thermal jackets. Some aliens wore them. In the heat, sweating, believing this made them closer to surviving like a human. Religious leaders held open-air sermons. One raised a book to the sky and shouted, "The sky speaks through them. The humans are chosen." They walk in thunder and fire. In the underground parts of the city, a new group was growing. They called themselves the Storm Children. These were mostly young aliens who believed that if they followed Earth traditions, they could grow stronger. They practiced walking in cold rooms and standing in wind tunnels. They whispered Earth's city names like they were sacred words: Chicago, Siberia, Sahara. Rook saw a small group practicing on a rooftop. They had a fan blowing cold air while one of them shouted weather facts. We must understand them. Humans, one said. Only then can we hope to match them. Rook didn't know whether to laugh or feel sorry. At night, news broadcasts from 100 planets repeated the same headline: Earth's weather is real. And so are the humans who survive it. Galactic leaders held emergency meetings. Some wanted to ban contact with humans. Others wanted to form alliances, hoping to learn their secrets. A few called for total surrender, thinking Earth might one day unleash its storms on them. But Earth had done nothing. Rook had only spoken a simple truth. That was all it took. From his window, Rook watched lightning flash across the city sky. It was artificial, part of a weather display set up to honor him, yet it made people tremble. Some fell to their knees. Others ran for shelter. Rook sighed. It's just lightning, he whispered. But in this galaxy, it was no longer just anything. The massive double doors of the Imperial data vault hissed open as Mara stepped through, her boots echoing in the cold metallic chamber. Behind her, Kriv and Tehran followed with wary eyes. The vault was hidden deep inside the palace mountain, carved from black stone and reinforced with quantum walls. This was where the Empire stored all historical records, myths, and classified files, protected even from the Empire's own citizens. Are you sure this is what scared the Council? Mara asked, looking over her shoulder. Kriv gave a single nod. We traced the panic back to a keyword alert, a phrase you said activated a forbidden file. Earth weather. Tehran looked around nervously. There are legends, stories told to frighten hatchlings, but nobody ever thought they were real. Mara raised an eyebrow. You're telling me your entire empire is afraid of a storm? No, Kriv replied slowly. They're afraid of what storms on Earth mean. A mechanical voice greeted them. Welcome to the Imperial Vault. Please state your clearance level. Kriv stepped forward. Commander Kriv, level 9, emergency override. The vault rumbled. A sphere floated down from the ceiling, scanning Kriv's face. Then it turned to Mara. Unknown species. Authorization denied. Kriv quickly stepped in. Override protocol. Temporary clearance for Terran subject. The sphere beeped twice, and then floated away. Lights lit up one by one, leading the group to a sealed chamber at the far end. As they walked, the air grew colder. Finally, they reached a platform in the center. A glowing console appeared, pulsing with a red ring. File. Search, Kriv said. Query. Terran planet. Keyword. Weather. The console paused, then responded in a chilling robotic tone. Warning. File classified under level 10 threat. Contents deemed psychologically dangerous to non-Terran minds. Proceed. Tehran looked pale. Are we really doing this? Mara crossed her arms. I want to see what's so scary about a little rain. Kriv hesitated, then pressed the confirmation glyph. The vault went dark for a moment. A single holographic projection came to life, showing a blue planet rotating slowly. The voice began to narrate. Subject, Planet Earth. Category, DeathWorld Class 5. Atmosphere, breathable. Gravity, stable. Threat level, maximum due to climate behavior and native life adaptability. The hologram zoomed in on massive weather systems moving over continents. Storms danced like monsters, twisting with power. A massive twister was shown, tearing through a city. Then came images of hurricanes, sandstorms, lightning bolts crashing across forests, and snow blanketing mountains in moments. Terran storms reach wind speeds of over 300 units. Lightning strikes carry enough power to kill multiple organisms instantly. Floods, blizzards, tornadoes, and heat waves occur with natural regularity. Yet the Terran species humans not only survive, but willingly walk into these events. Mara squinted. Wait, that's just normal back home. Kriv stepped back from the console. You're telling me your species builds houses in the path of those skyworms? They're called tornadoes, Mara replied. Yeah, we even chase them for research. Some people do it for fun. Tehran looked horrified. For fun. The next part of the file played. Historical event. Snowball Earth. Entire planet covered in ice. Human species adapted. Event. Dust Bowl. Decade-long famine. Species survived. Event. Hurricane Katrina. City destroyed. Species rebuilt. Despite continual climate violence. Humans remain on Earth by choice, considered the only known species in the galaxy to laugh while lightning strikes within visual distance. The console displayed a scene of Terran children playing in a thunderstorm. Kriv turned to Mara. You were telling the truth. Your kind truly grew up in a nightmare world. Mara shrugged. It's just home. Earth teaches you early. You don't run from the storm. You survive it. Sometimes you dance in the rain. The last part of the file was marked as restricted, but Kriv unlocked it. Addendum, Imperial Contact Log. Year 4719. Empire warship Glare of Steel lands on Terran soil. Subject of study, local atmosphere. Result, crew suffer hypothermia, sunburn, heat stroke, and oxygen sickness within a 48-hour window. Mission failed. Survivors declared mentally unstable. No further contact recommended. Tehran gasped. That was real. I thought it was just a myth. Kriv nodded. It was covered up, hidden under a layer of shame. Our empire thought we were the most advanced beings in the galaxy, but we couldn't last 2 days on a Terran planet. The vault began to flash red. Warning, vault breach, emergency lockdown initiated. What did we trigger? Mara asked, pulling out her handheld beacon, accessing forbidden knowledge without council approval. Kriv replied, but it's too late now. The truth is out. The doors slammed shut behind them. Gas started to fill the outer halls. Mara looked around. How do we get out? Kriv pressed a glyph. I know a hidden tunnel, but we have to move. They rushed down a narrow hallway lit only by flickering red lights. The sound of guards and alarms echoed behind them as they escaped through the emergency shaft. Kriv turned to Mara. This is why the Empire fears your kind, not because of weapons or numbers, but because you grew up in the worst place in the galaxy and didn't break. Mara looked up at the night sky. Maybe that's why humans don't quit easy. We're forged by lightning and born in storms. Kriv nodded. We need to tell others. The council must fall. The galaxy deserves to know the truth. Behind them, the vault sealed again. But it was too late. The secret was no longer hidden, and the Empire's greatest fear had just walked free, deep within the Imperial archives. Hidden beneath layers of thick steel and ancient codes, the truth about Earth had remained untouched for centuries. Most believed it was a myth. Others feared it was real. But now, because of what Leo had said, just a few words about Earth's weather, the Empire stood on the edge of collapse. General Varn arrived at the Grand Archive Hall along with Zara, the translator who had stayed close to Leo since the beginning. The hall was quiet, with only the hum of energy shields keeping the inner vaults protected. You're sure this is where the records are kept? Varn asked. Zara nodded. This place contains the pre-contact files. If anything about Earth exists, it will be here. With a wave of Varn's command disk, the energy gates opened inside. The lights flickered to life. Giant shelves stacked with metal scrolls and data crystals towered above them. They walked in silence until they reached a sealed chamber marked Category 7, Forbidden Worlds. The guards posted at the door looked uneasy. One of them finally asked, "General, are you certain? This room hasn't been opened in 100 years. I'm certain," Varn said. "Stand aside." With a loud hiss, the doors slid open. The air inside was colder, untouched by time. Dust floated in thin rays of blue light. Zara stepped forward and activated a scanning rod. As the beam passed over the old documents, a panel in the wall clicked and revealed a locked container. She opened it slowly. Inside were 3 objects: a single photograph of a storm on Earth, a data crystal, and a report labeled Human Environmental Conditions, Earth. Zara handed the report to Varn. He began to read out loud. Average seasonal. Conditions range from mild rain to violent electrical storms. Surface temperatures may reach extremes of both heat and freezing cold. Storms may produce tornadoes, hurricanes, or hail the size of rocks. Earthquake zones are active. Volcanoes erupt with little warning. Wildlife may survive in acidic, toxic, or freezing environments. Varn paused. Zara's face had turned pale. They live on that world. Varn nodded slowly. And not just survive. They thrive. The data crystal began to play a visual log. A shaky recording showed a human walking through a blizzard, laughing as snow and wind blasted across their face. The next clip showed humans on a beach as a tornado spun in the distance. Children ran, pointing at it as though it was entertainment. "Are they mad?" Zara whispered. "No," said Varn. "They are built for pain, built for storms. This is what made them." Varn suddenly remembered the words Leo had spoken days ago in the council chamber. Earthbow. That's nothing. Just a place where the weather tries to kill you 5 times a year. At the time, they had thought he was joking. Now, they realized he wasn't. Meanwhile, back in the prisoner wing of the palace, Leo sat calmly on the metal bench. He had been told he would be moved soon. A dozen guards stood outside his cell. None of them spoke to him. They avoided his eyes. When Zara entered, the guard stepped aside quickly. She sat across from Leo and looked at him carefully. Her eyes showed fear, but also curiosity. "You weren't lying about Earth, were you?" she asked. Leo shrugged. "Why would I lie? What did I say? You talked about weather, tornadoes, blizzards, volcanoes." "Oh, right," Leo said with a small laugh. "Yeah, we've got all that. And don't forget the giant storms on the ocean. Hurricanes, they can cover whole states." Zara looked away, clearly shaken. Leo tilted his head. "You all right? I read the reports." She said quietly, "Your people have survived floods, earthquakes, burning deserts, frozen mountains. You've built homes in the middle of danger zones. Why?" Leo leaned forward slightly. "Because no one else would. Because we don't run from the storm. We build in it. We fight it. And when it knocks us down, we stand back up." Zara whispered, "This empire, it was built on the belief that our enemies were always weaker. But if you come from a planet like that, then maybe we're the ones who were weak. Before Leo could respond, an alarm rang through the palace, high above the city. In the orbital command ship, Admiral Jorg stood before a massive view screen. Reports were pouring in from dozens of star systems. "Sir," said his officer, "several border colonies have shut down their trade routes. They fear human retaliation." "But we've only captured 1 human," Jorg said. The officer swallowed hard. "They believe that if 1 human is dangerous, there may be more. Are there?" The room fell silent. Then, a hologram lit up. It was a projection of Earth, sent from the Grand Archive. Jorg stared at the rotating blue and green planet. "Look at that," he muttered. "It looks peaceful." "It's not," said Varn's voice over the intercom. "That's what makes them terrifying. Their world kills without warning. Yet they smile. They explore. They survive. Every one of them is a storm wrapped in skin." Back in the city, crowds had gathered. Whispers of Earth had spread. News networks played clips of Earth's disasters. Paired with footage of humans rebuilding, panic grew. Leo, still inside his cell, heard the change. The noise outside shifted. Doors opened. Footsteps echoed. Varn entered, this time without his usual armor. He unlocked Leo's cuffs and held out his hand. Leo looked up. "What's this? You're not our prisoner anymore," Varn said. "You're our warning." Leo stood. "Warning?" Varn nodded. "If more of your kind ever come, this empire must be ready." Leo smiled faintly. "You'll never be ready." The alien command center was in ruins. Once a place of strict discipline and control. Now it echoed with silence and panic. The high-ranking nobles of the Varian Empire had either gone into hiding or submitted their resignations. The Imperial Council, made of the galaxy's most feared leaders, had disbanded within 2 days of the Earth weather incident. At the center of it all stood Rek, the human from Earth. He hadn't moved from his chair in the diplomatic chamber. His coffee mug sat untouched beside him. The phrase he had spoken, just a calm, offhand comment about surviving Earth weather, had shattered the foundation of an empire built over 5,000 years. Rek glanced toward Threx, the insectoid diplomat who had once threatened to vaporize a moon just to send a message. Now Threx stood beside Rek, holding a datapad with trembling limbs. "They want peace," Threx said in a low voice. "The Council, the warlords, even the Shadow Rings, all of them," Rek raised an eyebrow. Threx nodded. "They are terrified. Your species' endurance, your storms. The fact that you casually mention things like acid rain and lightning strikes as common events. It has broken them." Rek leaned back, stretching his arms. "I only told them about winter and tornadoes. I didn't even mention volcanoes or the mosquitoes." Threx dropped the datapad. Within hours of that first meeting where Rek spoke of Earth's wild seasons, the Varian scientists had accessed the Terran climate archives. What they found horrified them. Rain made of ice, giant spinning funnels of wind that could lift houses, oceans full of beasts with sharp teeth, plants that stung, trees that exploded in fire during storms. In some regions, the temperature went from boiling heat in the day to freezing cold at night. One of the most respected alien scholars, High Thinkersl, had fainted mid-presentation after reading about the Sahara Desert. Another diplomat had cried after watching footage of a bear calmly walking through snow in Alaska. Rek wasn't trying to scare them. He was just being honest. Now, galactic fear had turned into respect, and that respect had become reverence. The Varian Empire wasn't just surrendering. They were asking for guidance. Later that evening, Rek stood on a floating platform, looking down at the gathered crowds. Tens of thousands of alien beings stood silently, waiting for him to speak. There were no weapons pointed at him anymore. No threats, only fear and curiosity. The Emperor himself, a tall being covered in smooth scales, approached him slowly. His golden robe dragged across the floor. Behind him were his guards, but their weapons had been powered down. "We misunderstood your kind," the Emperor said quietly. Rek didn't reply. "We thought humans were weak because your home planet had no energy shield, no unified rule, and no space fleet strong enough to match ours. But now, we realize you didn't need those things." The Emperor bowed, a deep, respectful bow. Rek cleared his throat. "I'm just one guy, Emperor. I'm not here to lead or conquer. I just came here to talk." "But you changed everything with just a story about your weather," the Emperor said. Rek gave a half smile. "We didn't evolve in comfort. We were shaped by fire, ice, and storms. Earth made us this way." He paused, then added, "You feared war with us because of ships. But the truth is, Earth itself is the real weapon. It forged the kind of people who don't stop. That's why you lost the moment I spoke about it." The aliens listened with wide eyes. That night, every major empire across the stars sent messages to Earth. Some offered peace treaties, others wanted alliances. A few even requested that no human ever visit their planets again, not out of hate, but out of fear of what a Stormwalker might bring. Back on Earth, Rick's government was confused. He hadn't done anything violent, There was no blood, no war, no invasion, and yet the most powerful alien force in the galaxy had folded. "How did you do it?" one Terran general asked during a secure call. "I told them about hurricanes," Rek replied simply. Silence followed. In the weeks after, Rek traveled with Threx and a small team of alien scientists. He showed them real videos of Earth weather, helped them understand that humans didn't just survive chaos, they thrived in it. He showed them mountain climbers laughing in snowstorms, children playing in rain, and rescue teams running into floods without hesitation. The aliens watched in stunned silence. One of them whispered, "How do your kind smile through so much pain?" Rick just shrugged. "It's just life for us." By the end of the month, the Varian Empire officially stepped down from galactic control. They handed power to a united council, one where humanity now had a permanent seat. Not because humans had conquered anyone, but because everyone now understood Earth-forged survivors. Not all species were built for suffering, but humans, they carried it like a badge. Rex stood at the edge of the Galactic Council's new hall, watching stars pass beyond the glass. He wasn't a soldier or a leader, just a man who shared the truth, and that truth changed the galaxy.